What's good, YouTube? It's your boy, Blue Blood Sports TV, back at y'all with another one. So, I thought about it, the announcement of undefeated, unified, three-belt WBA, WBC, IBF, welterweight world champion, superstar boxer, who is widely considered by many to be top two, if not number one, definitely top five pound-for-pound best fighters in the world, in Errol the Truth Spence Jr. Errol Spence Jr. is 28 wins, no losses, no draws. 22 big wins by way of knockout. He is 32 years of age, 5'9.5" with a 72-inch arm reach. It was being reported and announced that Errol Spence is going to face off against former unified welterweight world champion who held the WBC, WBA welterweight world titles, superstar boxer Keith one-time Thurman, who is 30 wins, 1 loss, no draw, 22 wins by way of knockout. 34 years of age, 5'8" with a 69-inch arm reach. In his next fight, in a non-title fight at 154, at junior middleweight, okay, at 154 pounds, okay, and Keith Thurman was made the WBC World Boxing Council mandatory challenger for Errol Spence. Errol Spence's WBC title by the president Gilberto Mendoza and board of 32 members. Okay, so with that said, Errol Spence is on record stating that he has zero interest in facing off against Keith Thurman ever since 2017, okay, where Keith Thurman in March of 2017, he unified the titles against two-division world champion Puerto Rican superstar boxer Danny Swift Garcia, where the WBC, WBA titles was on the line. And Errol Spence, he won his first world title when he faced off against then British IBF welterweight world champion superstar boxer Special K Kell Brook for the IBF title in the UK. Okay, Errol Spence, he beat Kell Brook in the UK. Keith Thurman beat Danny Garcia 2 months apart. He did so in May. Keith Thurman did so in March, right? And Errol Spence called for a unification bout with Keith Thurman. Keith Thurman, he had zero interest in giving Errol Spence that opportunity, zero interest in fighting Errol Spence. And Keith Thurman said that he was going to make Errol Spence wait. He was trying to let the fight marinate. He kept telling Errol Spence, you're going to get your chance, young pup. But he went on a hiatus for 2 years after March of 2017. He didn't come back to January of 2019. Then he lost his WBA title July of 2019 against legendary 8th Division World Champion, iconic Filipino superstar boxer Manny Pac-Man Pacquiao. Okay, so with that said, after he lost to Manny Pacquiao, he came back February of 2022, and he beat Mario Barrios. But Keith Thurman has had a total of 3 fights since 2017 against Danny Garcia. Okay. Errol Spence, he was not happy the way Keith Thurman treated him, and he had no interest in fighting against Keith Thurman. Now, here's the thing about it. I see that people are saying that, why should Errol Spence revisit the negotiations with undefeated 3-division world champion, former junior welterweight undisputed world champion, currently the reigning WBO welterweight world champion, superstar boxer who is widely considered to be number 1 best pound-for-pound fighter in the world, and Terence Bud Crawford. Terence Crawford has a record of 39 wins, no losses, no draw, 30 wins by way of knockout. He is 35 years of age, 5'8" with a 74-inch arm reach. Now, Terence Crawford and Errol Spence made for the biggest fight in boxing. Now, their negotiations fell through for a November 19th showdown in 2022. Now, President and CEO of Showtime, President of Showtime Boxing, Steven Espinosa, said that they had 2 dates for Terence Crawford, okay? And Terence Crawford didn't accept those dates. Those dates included November 19th of 2022 and then the date of February or March of 2023, okay? And with that said, that means that they weren't sure and wasn't secure that they would get a deal done for the fight to take place in 2022, okay? Not to Terence Crawford's issue, okay? It wasn't Terence Crawford. It's the networks, okay? It's the promoters, right? So they wasn't sure if they was going to have the fight. Hence the reason why they secured a date in November and a fight and a date in 2023. Okay, Terence Crawford stated that he wanted to make it clear that he wanted to have the fight in 2022. He wanted to get active because the last time he fought was November of 2021 when he took on 2-time welterweight world champion superstar boxer Showtime Sean Porter, who's a retired now future Hall of Famer. Okay, and he wanted to get active in 2022. With that said, the negotiations fell through to whomever fault it may be, right? But I see people saying that Errol Spence should not give Terence Crawford the opportunity, should not revisit the negotiations. Well, if that's the case, then he shouldn't be revisiting and looking to negotiate and make a fight happen with Keith Thurman either, because he had the same stance. He expressed that he had zero interest in fighting Keith Thurman as the PBC Premier Boxing Champion, founding advisor Al Heyman, and PBC overall. They kept putting up posts to say who wanted to see and asking the fans, do they want to see Errol Spence and Keith Thurman, okay? Errol Spence himself went on that post and said the PBC need to take the L out of Lover. It's over. It's not happening. He said it's strap season. I want to fight Terence Crawford. Okay, well, if the fight with Terence Crawford, negotiations fell through with Terence Crawford, and he stated that, again, when it was being reported that he was going to face off against Keith Thurman, Errol Spence reiterated, and he stated that, when I said I'm never fighting Keith Thurman, I meant never, okay? Well, now he's going to be fighting Keith Thurman, and it looks like he's going to fight Keith Thurman at 154. Now, Errol Spence, he stated that the only reason he's staying at 147 is simply to, face off against Terence Crawford and to become undisputed, okay? Strap season. So why would he go to 154? Now, he stated that he's been at this weight for over 10 years, and it's difficult for him to make this weight, right? And so he wanted to get this fight over with Terence Crawford, and then he wanted to move up to 54. He even stated that after Terence Crawford negotiations fell through, Terence Crawford faced off against David Avanesian December 10th, right? Errol Spence said, it's cool, I'm going to have another fight, then I'm going to spin the block, come back to Terence Crawford, right? So I don't see Errol Spence wanting to move up to 154. I listened to Fred Barbershop Conversations, brother Fred, and he made a lot of sense. This is not something Errol Spence wants to do. This is inside job, right? They want to push the fight with Keith Thurman and Errol Spence. They've always wanted to push the fight. And I don't believe they put their best foot forward to make the Terence Crawford fight. They gave Terence Crawford what he was asking for in the twilight hour, when they felt like Terence Crawford was going to walk away from the negotiations and do other things, and they knew they had to go back to Errol Spence and report that in the twilight hour, right? And so then the reports came out that they gave Terence Crawford a revised contract that he didn't respond to for 2 weeks, and the revised contract was for him to fight Errol Spence in 2023. Well, it didn't matter if he responded now, then, or later, because it wasn't happening until 2023, right? So that means Terence Crawford was free to do whatever he wanted to do and face whoever he wanted to face, because he wasn't facing Errol Spence until 2023, right? Okay, so why is people saying that Errol Spence doesn't have to, he could do the same thing he's doing to Terence Crawford. He shouldn't have to revisit and negotiate with Terence Crawford, but he's revisiting the possibility of fighting Keith Thurman, who he's made it clear that he had zero interest in fighting Keith Thurman on multiple occasions. And now he's going to do business with Keith Thurman. If you do business with Keith Thurman to fight at 154 for a non-title fight, then you may as well go ahead and do business with Terence Crawford for undisputed match. It doesn't make sense. This is clearly being pushed upon Errol Spence Jr. This is not something that Errol Spence fancies. Point blank and period. Errol Spence has no interest in going to 154 and then coming back down to 147. No. It's like Fred Barbershop Conversation stated. Errol Spence had these shirts made up. Even after Terence Crawford beat David Avanesian, he had more shirts with the Big Fish as the Grim Reaper, calling Terence Crawford in dark. Errol Spence put a lot of stock into this Terence Crawford fight, right? I know he was disappointed that it didn't come to fruition, but you cannot tell me that Errol Spence is interested in fighting Keith Thurman at 154 in a non-title fight, somebody he didn't even want to fight. Okay, he's made it abundantly clear. I don't even like Keith Thurman. I think he's fake. I think he's phony. He's made it abundantly clear he has zero interest in fighting Keith Thurman. So now he's going to fight Keith Thurman. The WBC ordered Keith Thurman versus Errol Spence in February. They made Keith Thurman versus Mario Barrios a title eliminator. Keith Thurman hadn't fought in 2 years before fighting Mario Barrios, who was coming off of a knockout loss, being knocked down 3 times by a super featherweight, 130-pound Gervonta Tank Davis that jumped up from 130 to 140 to fight Mario Barrios. He fought and beat Mario Barrios, okay, at 140. Mario Barrios then in his very next fight moves up to 47 and fights Keith Thurman, and that's suddenly a WBC title eliminator to be the mandatory challenger for Errol Spence. The WBA, World Boxing Association President Gilberto Mendoza, had Emmanuel Stanionis, the regular champion, as the mandatory challenger for Errol Spence because they didn't even want to allow Errol Spence to fight Yordenis Ugas in a unification bout, let alone move up. Okay, let alone to allow Keith Thurman to leapfrog Emmanuel Stanionis after Errol Spence beat Yordenis Ugas. It just doesn't add up. This fight is being pushed upon Errol Spence. Let's see how it unfolds and plays out. Then it's being talked about that the fight is going to take place in April. Okay, April on pay-per-view. Well, April marks the date that we're supposed to get April 15th, Gervonta Tank Davis, Ryan Garcia. It's not adding up. So let's see how this unfolds and plays out. Let's see what Errol Spence says in response. And that's all I got for y'all. Make sure you hit the like button. Drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know what y'all think. Y'all already know what it is. It's your boy Blue, Blue Blood Sports TV. Hate, like, comment, and subscribe. You haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the bell icon to get all the new notifications. Follow me on Instagram at Blue Blood Sports TV, all one word. Y'all already know what it is. Shout out to the entire LDBC. Shout out to Black Media Row. Make sure you like and share these videos. That's all I got for y'all. Peace.